Hey,
Hey, hey, hey.
I'm so
What's going on,
excited.
Ahava?
We're on episode number 4. What?
Yeah.
I know. I feel like they're gonna.
Welcome, everybody. You guys so sweet. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So,
Um,
more, y'all. Let's
Shout
talk
out to
business.
Ravi for the music.
Wow. Shout out to Raviel. 13 Love,
Messaging.
bro.
Yeah, 13
Love
love.
that. We have such an amazing show today.
Dude, welcome to our show, everybody. To Let's Talk Business.
We get all up in your business.
All up in your business.
We got Special Tuesday. It's the top of the month, y'all. You know what that
is.
means? It's Mel's Corner.
Melly Mel
Mel in the
in
house.
the building. Yep.
That's right. He's going to be on with us soon. First of all, want to let you guys know how to keep in touch with us. Twitter, you can get us on Twitter at Ahava. You can get us on IG, Instagram, same thing, Ahava. Go to our YouTube. You could watch the replay, youtube.com/@Ahava. Don't get no simpler than that.
There you go.
Yeah, shout out.
I'm so excited about our show this week, you guys. It's going to be good. Mel's coming in with the great info, with the expertise. You know, it's going to be.
That's right. Actually, we're going to be talking about restaurants, which is what I'm most interested in because, I try to have one already.
Yeah, a good one. You know, yourfoodsthebomb.com, honey. You do it all. You just do it all.
.com. It was amazing. It's still up. We're working on trying to get it back together. But I would love to know from you, the financial expert, before people even start to think about their next steps, right? What can you tell them about their financial supporting system? How can they, when they're in the process of getting their business, plan together, what's their first step to do as far as financial is concerned?
As far as financially, most people, they're trying to save up. They're probably getting money together from their savings, their 401k, they're working really hard to just, financially support this business. But in reality, you really need to start working on your business credit. You want to use other people's money, and that's where it's at. You use other people's money. You don't have to stress out about working so hard. You need to start building your business credit right away.
So, okay, so you have there's your credit, there's personal credit, and then there's business credit, right?
Right.
So, what would they need? What are the steps they would need to do before even applying to get business credit? Because I'm sure there's something you have to do prior to then saying yes. Business credit.
You can't just go in and and ask the bank for
I want your money, sir.
Right. So you need to do the basic stuff. So you want to first get a business address, and it not your home. If you do something virtually, then or like do a service, then get a virtual address. So that way you can put that on your LLC whenever you're getting your EIN. You want to get a business phone number. You need to get a business email address. And so you want to do those basic things, before you're just going straight into that. You also have to register in Duns Bradstreet and get an LLC. Obviously you want to get an EIN. You can get an LLC or corporation, but you need to make sure those little steps are there. And if you want to know more, you can register to our business class. It's free.
There you go. Free classes, y'all.
Yes, so you can get at me on Linktree /Ahava Bay. Click on business credit class. There'll be a little some information you have to fill out, and then you'll get the link sent to your email. But yes, so actually it says up here, December 30th, but the next one will be coming out in a couple of weeks, and you'll get all that information whenever you register. And so definitely don't mix your personal with your business, you guys. You want to separate that.
That is the goal, because I've been there, done that, and it just makes things very sloppy.
Yes, it's stressful. It's so stressful.
You don't know what you spent, where you're going, who's got what. Did you spend it on yourself or the business?
And you want to use your hard working money for something else, not towards your business, not in that way. Yeah. But let's go ahead and get with this show. I'm excited, you guys, about this show. Well, not just that. Before we get in the show, let's talk about our sponsors.
Oh, yes. We have great sponsors. As always, we have Higher Financial Education. We have Time Management. We also have Earth Baby.
Oh, yes.
13 Crystalline. So talk to the folks about what Earth Baby is.
Let me talk to you about Earth Baby, you guys. If you guys need any type of laundry needs, go to earthbaby.com for all your chemical free, non toxic, just natural soap. I just added some laundry soap bombs on there and some dishwashing pads too. Everything smells absolutely amazing. You're not going to find it anywhere else. And that's earthbeye.com, you guys. And
Listen, go get your stuff together.
get it
Smell good,
together.
feel goods. You smell good,
Yes.
feel good.
And for you, you just do it all, but I
Yeah.
love that you have this holistic thing going on. You're just there for all the herbs and the cleanses, and tell them about 13 crystalline.
Yes, ma'am. And thank you for that. I try to do what I can. So yeah, 13 Crescent Line is a place that you can go consult with me or my consort and find out whatever's ailing you, how to get to the root of the problem.
There you
Um,
go.
we don't just shove herbs on your throat. We actually consult you on your nutrition because that is a big deal. If you're just
Mhm.
taking herbs because somebody said take herbs and you're not changing your lifestyle, just have expensive bathroom rooms.
Yeah.
So
Not
we
gonna
educate you at 13 Crest Line. Go ahead and get your free consultation for 15 minutes at 13KRSTALIGN.com and align yourself back to Christ, baby.
okay, you heard that. Now let's get into our show, you guys. We have Mel coming up. He's the owner of the Source Radio Network. He is the expert when it comes to business. We're going to talk about how you should run your restaurant, what to do from start to finish. And I'm excited. So, Mel, go ahead and come on to our show.
Hello, how are you?
Hey, Mel, how are you doing?
Good. How's everybody?
Excellent.
Yes, I'm
Excellent.
good.
Good.
Excited for Mel's Corner. We always get the good info with you. Thank you so
Mhm.
much for allowing us to use your platform. So good to be here.
I'm glad to have you, and I'm going to call for my 15-minute nutritional consultation.
Yes.
Yes.
I need herbs and a prayer.
We all do. It's a good
We
place
got
to
you for
start.
both, right?
Yeah.
So
Okay.
now let's talk business,
Let's talk business.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so
Yeah.
you are very familiar when it comes to restaurants, starting a restaurant. But as a hologram as a whole, like what do you have for somebody that wants to start their own restaurant? What's the first step? Like what should they focus on, at the very beginning? Because a lot of people want to focus on food.
That's right.
Yeah. Let me start off by talking about why a business should be seen as a hologram.
There we go.
A hologram is almost 4 dimensions because you can stand on a hologram. You can stand inside and look all around the inside of the interior. You can stand on the top and look down, the bottom and look up. You can stand on the sides and look in. And
Right.
and that's how you have to think about your business. You have to think about your business as a hologram. You got to see it from the inside. So if we're talking about restaurants, what are the things you have to look at? Well, you have a back and you have a front. The back is the kitchen, and the front is where everybody gets served.
Mhm.
So you're standing inside and looking around, and you have to look out the window. Where am I located? Is this the right place for me to be? And
Yeah.
you know, then you have to look deeper inside, and you have to say, how many tables do I have, and what's the turnover rate of my tables? How many meals do I have to serve to break even? How do I price my meals? So when I say it's a hologram,
Mhm.
the food is, as you mentioned, Ahava, the food is a given. If you don't have food, you don't have a restaurant. So everybody usually starts off with the fact that they know how to cook,
Mhm.
and a lot of people are extremely skilled. And the minute they think about having a restaurant, everything else is not focused on the food. It surrounds the food, and it
Mhm.
brings
Mhm.
the food to the customer, and brings the customer to you, and brings money to repay all the expenses, of running the restaurant. So, it's not simple. And so many people who want to start a restaurant, who are spectacular chefs, their restaurants fold within 6 months to a year because they didn't look at it holographically, and they didn't look at it in terms of that the food is the given. It's the least important thing to concern yourself with. Like, for example, if you have let's say you have a front of your restaurant that has 20 tables. Let's look at the back at the kitchen. is the kitchen big enough to serve 20 tables plus takeout?
Right.
So you have to look at this, look at the scale between the front and back,
Hmm.
and then you have to look at personnel. You have to look at how many people do you need out front to clear tables, to wait on tables, to act as cashier. And then those tables need dishes. How many dishes do you need to buy, and how do you restock them? And do you get it from a supplier, or do you go out and you go and shop for them yourself? I mean, there's so many decisions. Even let's talk about, okay, we're standing outside your restaurant you just opened.
Hmm.
Why is it where it is? Is that the best location? If you're serving high-end food and you're in a zip code that has an average income of $30,000, you have a problem.
Huge
Yeah.
problem.
So, so
No way.
yeah, the problem is no customers. And not for those prices. So you have to look at a zip code and look at the demographics. What's the average age of the people in that community? Do they have children? Is that relevant to your restaurant? Is it a family restaurant? Is it a high-end, gourmet restaurant? And then you have to look at competition. What other restaurants are in the area?
Yeah.
And so you have to start looking when you're starting to think about a restaurant. You have to start thinking about demographics. Even if you're going to be a caterer, and your
Mhm.
primary food is not going to be served in interior, but be delivered outside the interior. Well, you'll need a truck if you're going to be doing catering.
Hmm.
So there's so many things to think about and the food, like I said, is the least important because that's a given. If you don't have good food, you're not going to make it. So it's everything else that you need to start off with, and there's just so many things. Like let me pricing food. I mean, that is often so poorly addressed, and
Yeah.
that's where so many restaurants fail. I mean, there's just so many different parts to this, but I just want to emphasize the holographic nature that you have to look at all of this from the inside, from the outside, and make sure you have all the pieces right before you even say, I'm going to locate my restaurant here and open my doors.
So let's say you have all of the makings for that, right? So you have the fact that you cook good food, you've got a location that coincides with your space, but now we're trying to figure out how to price the food according to your location and the size of your restaurant. How does how do people do that? Is there a ratio that they would work in? Is there a percentage? How does that work?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a great question, and it goes back to some of the first things I was talking about.
Hmm.
Depending on what your restaurant's going to serve, and you have some general idea about what it's going to be priced at, just a general idea. If you're going to be serving steak, it's not going to be the same thing as serving hot dogs and hamburgers. Pricing is going to be radically different.
Right.
So you have to make sure in the zip code there's enough income to support it. And typically, high-end restaurants also coincide with educational level. So you have
Mhm.
to look at the educational level in the community, the income in the community.
Right. You got to
Um,
be able to read the menu.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Especially if it's in French,
Where
it's
did
a
you
French
go
restaurant.
to find that information?
Which information? I'm sorry.
To even look up all these things, where did they go to do that?
A zip code directory. You can go, like, for example, let's say you're in Prince George's County in Maryland. You can go and look at the zip codes, and they will give you all the demographic information on
Wow.
that particular zip code. So you might say, I really want to locate my restaurant here because it's near where I live, and you look at the demographics, and it doesn't support the kind of restaurant you have.
Hmm.
So again, you start with zip codes in terms of locale. Once you have the site selected and you're going to open your doors, let's talk about pricing a little bit because that's the question you asked me. What goes into the price of food? Well, of course, it's the cost of the food. Then you
Right.
have labor. You have a sous chef who does preparation. It may be that you want to do a mom and pop operation. You don't want to have a sous chef. You want the chef to do all the preparation. You need
Mhm.
refrigeration. You need sinks. You need stoves and ovens. So you counter space in the back. You need a freezer. I mean, so you have to start pricing in, the cost that you're paying And some of this stuff, people are buying on credit for their business. They have to price in the cost of these into each dish they serve. Like, for example, I know it sounds hard, but here's the situation. The first thing you look at is the cost of food. You have to amortize your equipment cost over each dish you serve. It has to be in there somewhere, because somewhere the cost that's very expensive to set up a kitchen has to be absorbed, so you still make a profit.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you look at the number of tables you have, and then you have 4 tops, 2 tops. How many? What's the size of your tables? How many tables are there? And what's your turnover ratio? How long do you think people will be seated? If people come in and you have 20 tables and they sit for 4 hours, you have a problem. That their dinner's gone, and you only serve 20 possible people or 20 tables. So you have to be able to figure in turnover and what's the total amount of food that you're going to be serving that night, all right, or that day. And then you have to figure out, okay, now I have to take my costs. I have labor, I have food, I have the amortization of the kitchen, I have rent, I have insurance, I have utilities, I have plates, dishes, I have stainless steel, I have, I can go on ad infinitum.
Where's the upside here? Like, where's
well, the upside is this. Once you figure out the total cost, and and then you average out per month, you can break it down per day, and then you look at the number of tables, and you look at the number, how often you can turn those tables over, and then all you do then is simple. You take the total amount of people you're going to serve and divide it into the monthly total cost. Mm-hmm. Then you'll find out what is my actual cost. And then you have to double or triple the cost to come up with the price per dish. And this is a problem because a lot of times you'll find you're grossly underpriced. The menu items have to be really adjusted. And if you don't do this, you might say, well, I'm getting $15 per person, but your actual cost might be $17 a person.
Right.
So this is where most restaurants fail. They fail on the pricing model, and they fail on the location that can support the pricing model.
Quick question too. Like, so I've heard of a lot of successes from people going from the street cart,
Mm-hmm.
and then really getting this huge audience, these huge clients for their food truck, and to the point where they're like, it's time to get a restaurant. Mm-hmm. Or they would prefer that because they're kind of outgrowing the food truck, or they're just tired of the food truck type of thing, or they have both. They're able to have both. Would you say it's beneficial to start in that arena first to test the waters, so to speak? Like, how are people really making that temperature change to, as a small company, mom and pop, to opening up a shop? What are the best?
It's a great question, but here's the problem: you're not going to serve lobster out of a truck, or you're not going to serve Chateaubriand out of a truck. So depending on the food, there may be some preliminary ways you can start off smaller,
right.
But it depends again on the type of cuisine you're offering, and that will determine whether or not there's a startup process, or whether you have to just go into a restaurant, and have a plan and know what you're doing. So it really depends on the food that you're considering, to serve to people. If you're going to be like a diner and serve everything from, eggs for breakfast, to cheesecake
right.
for dessert, that's a totally different operation. So, and this is my point. And restaurants are illustrative. I owned a restaurant in Florida. And so, I'm talking from experience, both as a person who's been deeply involved in business management, but also involved with my own business. And I can tell you that, there has to be some meeting between the kind of food you're serving and how you're going to present this to the people that are going to be your patrons. Like, for example, you could have a great restaurant and no parking. So, people can't park, so like this is why I said to you before, the food is the least of your problems. The real problems are, how do you get the food into to people, and how do you make it profitable? and sustainable? And how do you grow? That's the other option too. Do you expand? If you reach the point where you can't do any more business where you are, do you go to a bigger location or start a second location?
Right.
That's not the same. They're two totally different animals. Are you
Mm-hmm.
going to be able to manage another location from your location and have the same quality control? That's where a lot of times the restaurant falls apart when they expand to a second location and the quality diminishes. So
Well, I have a question. So
yeah,
for you, since you have a restaurant, yourself, from somebody that's starting from the very beginning, and they want to grow their restaurant, they're just now starting, they want to get customers. Like, how did you start? How did you start attracting customers and growing your business?
okay, yeah, that's a great question. The restaurant I owned was in Mount Dora, Florida, a small town north of Orlando, and it's a very artsy town. They have craft festivals, they have art festivals,
Hmm.
so they draw lots and lots of people to the area. I had a building that was an old building that was built in the 1920s that had been renovated, and the top floor we opened an art gallery.
Oh,
So so people would come into the art gallery and go downstairs and eat food. So
yeah.
so yeah, so
I would,
we called it the art of food,
there you
Oh, I
and
go.
like that.
and we have art exhibitions and have different artists come in who are local, some were national. So
Hmm.
we wanted to create a draw so people would know the restaurant, not just for its food, which was excellent,
Mhm.
and people who came in for the food often went up and bought art. So you know, figuring out a complementary structure to market. Like today, one of the things you have is Uber Eats, and you have, and so you can do a lot of takeout. Now, before it wasn't as easy, but
Yeah.
now it's cost effective for the people who have a restaurant. So takeout can become a major part of your business, and it
Mhm.
wasn't like that 5 years ago.
Right. It's almost like if
So
you don't have that, you're kind of cutting your arm off a little bit, because you're limiting your clientele, so to speak.
Hmm.
definitely, definitely. And so, this is so my point is, when I'm talking about the restaurant that I had in Florida that was
Mhm.
very successful. The point is that you have to come up with some way that you're going to draw customers to your restaurant, and that's why location is super important. The kind of cuisine, somehow affiliating your restaurant with a second business, and I did that with the art gallery.
Mhm.
That was my model.
Yeah.
So, you know, if you're going to start a restaurant, basically you need to have a business manager. You really, anybody who tries to do it on their own that has no restaurant experience is
Mhm.
really taking a huge leap of logic and risk.
Mhm.
Because just a simple thing like we talked about, pricing food is not simple. There's so many costs that are unannounced that need to be accounted for in the pricing of your food.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You know? So, and then, there's the other things are staffing and training. Training is critical.
Yeah.
If there's one thing that I find when I go not only into restaurants but any store these days,
Mhm.
people who are working there are so poorly trained. It's pathetic.
Oh,
Yeah, and it's not their fault. It's management's fault. And
yeah.
you know, so if you go into a restaurant, you're looking and you want to sit down. You want a person who's pleasant. You want a person who's efficient.
Right.
And that seems like such common sense, but it's not common in a lot of restaurants.
Right. Right. It's the first point of contact. If they're
Yeah,
Yeah.
literally your
that's
speaker,
right. That's right.
service,
Yep.
and this goes to in any company, but especially in food, you want to feel like you just came to your house and you're
Oh
taking off
my
your
gosh.
shoes and you're about
Yes.
to sit down and eat some good food.
Yeah, and the food industry is changing in this way. You can go in a lot of restaurants now, and they have QR codes. They have a little electronic
Yes.
thing on
That's
your table, and you order the QR code. But here's the problem: some of those QR codes then go to a website where you order. The food takes twice as long, and it
mhm.
and they have half the menu. So
Right.
sometimes these technological innovations, you know, don't work. So
Yeah.
you know, so you have to also look at there are a lot of restaurants that are fairly, I shouldn't say a lot, but there are restaurants that are fairly successful, minimizing the contact you have with people and having people being able to order on their cell phones or through a QR code.
Right.
And and the food is brought out to them, but it minimizes the contact with waiters and waitresses. It depends again on the demographics and the kind of people. Young people might find that attractive, but older people may find that unattractive. They
Right.
want someone to pay attention to them.
Yeah.
That's why they go out.
Right.
So,
Exactly. Yeah.
Real quick before we have to wrap it up, you were speaking about websites. One of the things when it comes to restaurants, before I go, I always try to look it up, see what's on the menu. And there's so many restaurants that don't have a website.
So annoying. They have a Facebook page that says nothing about their business. It's horrible.
It's horrible. And they might have amazing food.
Yeah.
But like I wouldn't even go just because of that. I would have to be walking by and just stop to get my attention. But
you're
so
making
website.
you're making my points. This is part of the holographic view. You have to look at how are people going to even come to my restaurant? What preparation do they need to make sometimes? Like looking at a menu, calling, checking in to see if the table's available. If you don't have a website, it's a major issue. So again, this is part of the planning process where I keep saying the food is your least important problem.
Very true. Well, thank you, Mel, for being on the show. Do you have anything that comes to mind that you would like to speak about real quick before we wrap it up?
Well, yes, this conversation made me extremely hungry.
Me too.
Love some great food.
Yes, we're gonna have to have Noni come cook us some food.
Sounds good to me.
We have to have a conversation though, because there's so many facets of food talk that we can have, especially with restaurants. We can even talk about meal prep and like stuff, shipping food out. I would love to talk about that.
And where do you get your food from? Do you get it from a distributor like Cisco Foods, or do you or do you go to your local Aldi's and pick it up?
Right, that's a big deal, and it changes the price point so drastically,
tremendously. And that's why they need management. That's why what you do, Noni, and what you do, Ahava, is so important, because it gets people to start thinking about what in the world am I doing?
Because at the end of the day, you might not even want to do it, or you're going to scale it down to a point where you can manage it, and then start thinking about having a physical, brick and mortar. You might just be like a takeout spot. You might just be a food truck. You might be on the side of the highway.
Definitely. Again, the problem for most people starting their own business is not knowing what they don't know.
Yeah.
That's the biggest problem, not knowing what they don't know. And that's where the problems start.
Yeah.
So look, I think that again, having people like both of you and having people involved in being able to help people with management direction and business planning is critical to the success of any business. I just use restaurants as an illustration of the kinds of problems that any business confronts. I don't care if it's a gift store or it's, or they're making candles or perfume. It's the same problem. It's just different names for the different things.
That's right.
Very, very true.
Speaking of, we can talk about how to reach us too.
Yeah, thank you, Mel, for being on the show.
You're welcome.
We appreciate you. We'll be back, with Mel's Corner next month, first of the week, and we'll finish the conversation.
Yes.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Mel,
so much to know about business.
It's so much. And listen, if you have questions, guys, come see us. You can go to Ahava Financial Education and get some financial advice by going to shopblackenterprise.com. Just click on business planning. Talk to your homegirl Ahava. She's going to hook you up with the finances. Come see Kai Management, and I will help you with that marketing. Get you thinking about whether or not you're ready for a brick and mortar or not. How can we revamp your menu, or what your thoughts are about even starting right now. And you can get us both. Package deal at Ahava Kai Consulting.
And for the financing, you guys, is not just business credit. You can also get business loan or a personal loan. We can talk about consumer financing as well. Whatever you need, you can book a consultation for that and be able to get your services, through the website. I'm really excited about next week We are
Yeah,
going to be I've never actually met somebody that hand makes belts, like leather. Like
right.
it's going to be amazing. We're going to learn so much.
The closest I've ever done to that was me poking a hole to make another notch, and that's about
Okay.
it.
Okay. Me too.
Yeah. Yeah, I've learned how it's done, but not making it. So come back next week, you guys. Listen, if you haven't catch this show, check the replay on our social media plays, youtube.com/ at Ahayakai. And for all of our listening viewers, it's AHIYAHKAI. Check us out on Instagram, same thing, at Ahayakai. Our Twitter is at AhayaEDU. If you have any questions, also email us at
Yes. Thank you guys for the show. We'll see you next week and get up all up in your business. Hey.